All right, hello everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Lit in English, and this is Lesson 5, Understanding the Self, Materialize um, a Happy Life, right? Or materialize your inner peace. And today is going to be a very important presentation because we are moving toward the very first of the three semantic reference system. But before we are doing that, just a quick review on the previous presentation. And last week we did the transformation principle, which is the last of the four principle. And the transformation principle tell us that through asking the right question and contemplating around those questions, which is a form of questioning that will help us lead to enlightenment and understanding and eventually transformation. And the key of the transformation principle is questioning because the thing that we are questioning will lead to our transformation. And most of the time, because we was not aware of the importance of questioning, we tend to questioning life negatively. But once we are aware of it and we can shift our perspective to a more positive questioning, then that will help lead us to a more positive transformation. And by no means that negative questioning is bad in the past because that is what helped us alive. But in this day and age where we can live in peace and human moving toward a more positive direction, it is extremely important that we ask a positive question because the topic that we are interested in has direct influence on our life, on our transformation. So the four principles are very, very important, very, very foundational to help us understand our inner self and elevate our wisdom. So if you missed out our previous episode, feel free to rewatch them. We have our recording available on YouTube that you can view. But today is an extremely, extremely important episode. So let's us go ahead and dive right in today's topic. So feel free to grab a piece of paper and then I would like to invite you to draw along so that we can have a great understanding as we draw it and as we discussing the very first semantic reference system. And this will be called the formula of the root cause of life. All right. So let's get to it. And this is called the formula of the root cause of life because this is one of the three semantic reference systems that help us truly grasp an understanding of all things that we face in life. And all of it come down to the outcome. Feel free to write on the bottom right the word outcome. So the outcome of anything and everything is extremely important to us because by starting with the outcome, we will know what we need to do to get there. And that was the importance of the fourth principle, the transformation principle, because in order to get to the right transformation of ourselves leaning toward a positive direction, we learned that we have to ask a positive question and questioning it in order to help us reach an enlightenment. Therefore, when we're discussing outcome, what do you think is the direct influence on the outcome that we get if we have to choose a word that directly influence the outcome of our life? What word would you think? What would be the word? And thanks to the wise man that supporting us and sharing with us these amazing knowledge. The one word that directly influence the outcome of our life is choice. It is the choice that we make in life that get us to the outcome we have today. And if you can consider how the choices in your past have influenced the outcome of your life today, then don't you agree that everything you choose, whether the food that you eat or the book that you read or the certain job, certain career that you decided to take, all of those outcomes result in the choice that you make? But the funny thing about the human nature is that if we were to get the outcome that we desire, the positive outcome to us, we tend to contribute that to the decision that we make. But on the contrary, when bad thing happen, people tend to blame the circumstances that happening. They tend to blame other people around them for the outcome that they are receiving. So today we are addressing a very, very important question. What has a direct influence on our outcome? And if the outcome we are having is not the outcome that we want, then what can we do about it? Right? For example, I'm wearing a white shirt today. And if you were to ask other why do they do things the way that they are doing, or why did they decide to um, do, or the the option or the choices that they choose, like why would they do that? And people might give you different answer, but if you continue to ask them too, then eventually they would uh, they would tell you that they choose certain thing to generate a certain outcome because they simply like that choice, or because that choice is suitable suitable to them at that time. All right. So if choice is directly influenced on our on outcome, and because we would like a certain decision, and if the certain decision is suitable to us, then wouldn't it be strange that there are problems arise in life as we discussed in many of our previous presentation, right? Why is it that many people don't have a good relationship with themselves? Why don't we have healthier people in general? Why do people still have certain illnesses, right? Why is it that we have problem arise when it comes to our relationship of our finances? So the outcome that occurs is also influences by our character, because our character is what lead to those choices, those outcomes suitable to a certain character. Let's see an example of my health example. I has been a little bit overweight for a very long time, and it was me who made that decision, right? Because I understand I do have to exercise, but there are certain food that I craving for, and because of that particular character, leaded to my choice of choosing a delicious meal over exercising, for example. And because of that particular character, that lead directly to the outcome of being overweight. So we now understand that character will lead to an outcome. But looking at character, it is still not the root um, of life, because people changes. Okay, have you ever looking back in your life and you think to yourself, like, why did I make that decision many X amount of years ago or Y amount of years ago? If you were to go back in time, you would make a different decision. But the thing is, at that time, you already was making the best possible choice because of your character at that time. And the character that you are today will be different. The character that you are today wouldn't make that particular choice. And similarly, in the future, when you improve yourself or when you have more knowledge, more relationship, and in a better state of financial independence, then your choice might be different. Your character might be different. And then because of that, we realize that character is still not the root of life. And the wise man have shown us that habit is actually the element that influences on one's character. And that is the reason we do not focus on changing character. We have to focus more on the habit, right? And by changing habit, uh, the character will change, and that will directly influences on our choice. But then again, habit is not the root cause neither. So we do not focus on changing the habit, because what created habit would be action. The action that we take over time will create our habit. Therefore, action is what created habit. But at the same time, action is not the root neither. So we do not focus on changing action neither. It is the thought that we have. It is the thought that we have that influences our action. Now, as simple as this four-step from character was formed from habit, habit was formed from action, and action was formed from thought. As simple as it is here, this actually take a very long time for scientists and researchers to find out. And even though the formula of the rule of life can be applied in any situation, any scenario, in any profession, it is important that we realize this formula was created through many, many years of research, many, many years of observation, particularly in a business setting. So over the year, many, many big uh, company and corporation, they has spent a lot of money trying to figure out how to obtain the outcome that they want. How can they grow their company? How can they maintain the satisfaction of not only their customer, but also their employee? And they realize that in order to have a successful business, it is the people who built the company. And they realize the importance of building their employee force. Therefore, they would try to hire the smartest people out there, the right people with the right character to work for the company. And this is the reason you would see some company spend a lot of money and they focusing on trying to hire the right person. And that is the reason we have resume and stuff like that, an interview to figure out to make sure that is this person had the character that I need for my company. And they did that for a while, and then they realized that even though the employee had the character that they need, but in this constantly changing and very competitive world of businesses and finances, the leader of the company quickly realized that they not only need the right person with the right characters, they want people who are willing to learn and willing to change. And they realize that habit is what create character. Therefore, in order to be able to adapt to the change, they had to induce and build a new habit in order for the person to grow. And that was when we started to see like promotion, or that is when we see like bonuses when it's come to the pay and structure. And they will see some result. But because habit is not the root of all things, the roots of life, people notice that after a certain period of reward, of bonuses, their staff, the employee tend to fall back to their old habit, with taking them back to the old character. So obviously habit is not the root. And thanks to the expert, they eventually figured out, oh, it is the action that create habit. So they choose to focus in on action. They would try to get their staff to go to work on time, for example, taking the right break, spending time in the right team building. And it would show result at first, but then again, over time, these actions are not enough to maintain the right habit to generate the right character because people would fall back into their old habit and their old character. Okay. And then the expert realized that it is the thought that had a direct influence on the action which created habit and then which create a character. And at that time, that is when we started to see um, like inspirational quote hang on the wall to remind people to take the right action, and through that, it will generate the right habit to generate the right character. And promotional, inspirational quote could be something like exercise more, or this can show in the advertisement campaign, right? You can see like advertisement going on TV for many times, and then that get to your thought, which lead to your action to buy their product, and through that create habit and that build character. And this is a strategy that widely used when it comes to advertising. And there was a very famous marketer who introduced egg and bacon to an American diet. Because prior to that campaign, um, I think it was back in the 1950s, around there. Uh, American wasn't eating egg and bacon for breakfast, but to a very successful campaign on television ad, in newspaper, and through the very smart displays of product, they was able to engrave into the consumer mind that egg and bacon is the way to go for breakfast. And if you don't believe me, if you can look at other culture, other environment, people don't just eat egg and bacon for breakfast. They have other choices. They have options. But through the formula of thought, action, habit, character that lead to outcome, our behavior and our character could be changed and lead to the outcome that other design for us. Right. And there is a very famous book that I read about 10 years ago, and it was called the how how to be a millionaire, pretty much, or the habit of uh, successful entrepreneur. And in that book, the author, who is a multi-millionaire, he would show the secret to become a billionaire, and it was very exciting. And there was one quote in the book that caught my attention, and it said that in order to make $1 million, you have to be a millionaire first. And at that time, when I read that quote, I thought it was strange because the definition of a billionaire is having at least $1 million. So how can you be a millionaire prior to making that $1 million? And as I read further to the book, the author slowly demonstrate the character of a millionaire, the habit of the millionaire, the action of the millionaire, and the thought of the millionaire, of how a millionaire mindset is to wake up early in the morning, 4 or 5 a.m. Then they go to their routine, morning routine, like exercising, meditation, and positive thought, manifestation of their success. And I realized that these 4 steps are extremely, extremely important. It is not just about making $1 million or becoming a millionaire. These are the steps that all of us humans go through that created the outcome that we are seeing today. But you know what? The thought, it is not the root of life either. Because it is actually a mindset. It is the mindset that influence people to have the thought, and the thought lead to action, and the action lead to habit, and the habit lead to character, and the character would lead to outcome. And just like the book said there, the millionaire mindset, it will it will help people attain the right thought, the right action, the right habit, and the right character. And thanks to the wise man, the expert, and all of my teacher, they point out to us that the mindset is actually the decisive element that influence directly the choice, which will generate the outcome. And this is very, very powerful because just like the millionaire mindset book suggests that I mentioned earlier, once the person have the mindset of a millionaire, right? Just go ahead and write the word as here, because we have different mindset. The second that a person set their mind on becoming a millionaire, he automatically figured out what kind of thought that he needs to have, what kind of action he needs to do, what kind of habit he needs to acquire, what kind of character he needs to build. So with the right mindset, every other step would be clear. Okay. On the contrary, there's a story that I tell you about business and corporation. They would focus in on important topic like character, but eventually they realize that that is not the root cause. And then they figured out the habit and they focused on that, and they realized that it's not the root cause neither. And similarly, action and thought. But once we have our mind set on a certain goal, on a certain outcome, that will directly influence us on our choice. And it will eventually give us the desired outcome that we want. And in many success story, whether it is um, weight loss or whether it is the decision to be healthier, or the decision to have better relationship, better career, all of it, you can find the similarity of an instant second that it can happen and instantly through mindset, and that drive people to action. And over time, the outcome will present it itself. And it is extremely important that we understand mindset, because thinking back to the transformation principle we discussed last week, the questioning part of whether it was negative or the questioning part whether it was positive, this particular um, point is greatly related to the mindset. Because if our mindset, or in other words, if we set our mind on the result, on the outcome that we want, and we lean toward the positivity of it, then we will get the outcome that we want. Because there are people who think that they set their mind on a particular outcome, but they still don't get it. They work really hard for it, but they still don't get the outcome that they want. And we discussed this a little bit in the previous presentation, and we pointed out that it was because they have a negative questioning, right? And let's use the example of having a healthier body compared to trying to lose weight in my example. So even though the mindset, because even though the outcome that we want is to be healthier, to be becoming more beautiful, but in the subconscious level, the true mindset that we have when we said we want to lose weight is that our mindset is already set at not eating healthy and working really hard to get away from it. And that's also take us back to the principle of life, right? If we were trying to get darkness outside of the room, and that wouldn't work. And by understanding this, all we need to do is by changing our mindset, not only the outside, not only with just thought, but deep down in our inner self, we make that conscious decision that we want to be healthier when it's come to health, or we want to have an even better relationship with our inner self. We want to have an even better relationship with the people around us. We want to be able to make even more money when it comes to finance. Therefore, the right mindset is extremely important. But you know what? Mindset is not the root neither. There is a step further, and it's pointed out to us that what goes even deeper than mindset is an image or images. So what do I mean by images here? And let's start out with the example of exercising and trying to lose weight that I had many years back. Right? Because of the mindset that I have that uh, I was overweight and I wanted to lose weight. Prior to having that mindset, I already had the image in my mind that I needed to lose weight. And because of that is influence on the mindset. So that is a personal level. But there are very successful entrepreneurs in the world who understand this formula and they brought great success in their career. And the images, even though this word is very simple, but it is the foundation of many amazing success story in life. And one of it um, is the birth of Amazon back in 1996 when when there was a huge blooming the .NET era. And at that time, Jeff Bezos, who was a very successful broker, he had a vision, he had an image of an online store that can offer online products to the customer. And he started out his business with selling books because he's realized that book is really easy to mail out and it is so essential to um, a person growth. And he can start it out at his garage. So he has an image of a big company, a great company that can offer any product online, and people can just shop at the comfort of their home. And because of that image, he then had the mindset of materialize Amazon. And through his hard work, he was able to bring Amazon to the way it is today, where they are now offering overnight delivery. And similarly, Bill Gates is another success story in the 1960s when he had the image of having computer available in every single household. And not only that, he realized that in order to make computer useful, the computer need a software to run these powerful computer. And keep in mind that at that time, computer would cost like millions of dollars. And that is the equivalent of $10 million in today's money. And it was impossible according to the expert at that time. But in Bill Gates' mind, it is almost like a fact that computer will be all around us and somebody need to write software for those computers. And because of that image that he had, that changed his mindset, that set his mind on a journey to build Microsoft. And Microsoft quickly become one of the biggest company in the world, and Bill Gates became the youngest billionaire in the world and eventually became one of the richest men in the world. And for the very long time, Bill Gates was the richest man in the world. And all of that happened thanks to the image that Bill Gates had. And you can even call it future sight or future vision. And one can argue that the images that you had in your mind in that split second has a direct influence on your outcome. But images is still not the root of all. There's a story of Elon Musk in one of the interview, and one of the audience asked Elon Musk a question that how can he become like Elon? He admired Elon so much. And then Elon thought to himself for almost a minute. And then he told the guy that you don't want to be me. You don't want to be me. And it was almost like he was talking to himself. And then Elon went to explain that you don't want to be me because I think all the time. I can't even stop thought coming to me. And what Elon was saying is that there are ideas that he constantly have, he constantly thinking, constantly having these ideas. And thanks to all the wise men and all of the experts, the great master, the enlightened one, part of that, the root of images are hearing, seeing, saying, and knowing. So for the case of Elon Musk, who has built many, many successful story or many, many successful company, he constantly had these images. He constantly had these knowing, saying, seeing, and hearing. And by constantly knowing about the future site, the future project, and constantly talking about it, he started seeing it materializing. He started hearing people start to discussing about it in real life. So the images contain the knowing, saying, seeing, and hearing, which have direct influence on the mindset, which have direct influence on the choices that one made, which generated the outcome. And all of the successful people in the world, whether they consciously using this formula or not, we realize that all outcome was generating through this formula. And knowing this, even though we know that character of a person influences their choice and created the outcome, we don't focus on character because character is not the root. And even though we realize that habit is what generated character, we don't focus on habit either because we realize that action is what created our habit. But then again, we don't focus on action because thought is what generate action. And we don't focus on our thought either because mindset it was automatically generate all four of these steps and has direct influence on our choices. But then again, to get to the very root of life, it is important that we are aware of the images that we might see or we might be aware of in that split second. The information that we receive and knowing to be true in that very second and make a difference in just an average Joe compared to a Bill Gates, a Jeff Bezos, or an Elon Musk. And even though this formula can apply in many things in life, it is critical to understand that applying and focusing on the images with knowing the saying, see, and hearing is the fastest way to get to the outcome that we want. And in order to understand this just a little bit better, like in a simpler term, let's get another piece of paper. Here I invite you to use a very simple example of a tree. Let's go ahead and draw the tree here. Root. And let's give this some leaf. Let's call this an orange tree. And let's say that this is your orange tree. And the design of your orange tree is that you want it to be sweet. Okay. Just to make sure I'm going to write how this is an orange. Oranges. And for this orange, you want it to be sweet. But instead of the sweet orange, you actually have the sour orange. Now, what do you do when this happens? Okay. There are many ways that people would try to solve this problem. And over the years, I would hear solution like fertilization, put some fertilize to the tree and hope that it will produce a sweet orange. Or some other solution would be plant a different tree or to add sugar into the orange. But the thing is, all of that solution that you might think of or other might use to try to get the orange to turn from sour into sweet, those are only temporary, right? And that is what the root formula is telling us. When there's an outcome that we want to get, that we want to acquire, we might choose to focus on character, we might choose to focus on habit, action, thought, or even mindset. Those are only temporary, right? Again, if we were to choose to fertilization, or add sugar to the orange, or plant a different tree, even drafting, or even trade sour for sweet. All of these are temporary change. And those are temporarily because of this. The seed of the tree that we are planting, that is the key factor, or a seed. All right. It is not about the root. It is not about the leaf. It is not even about the oranges itself. It is about the information of the seed that greatly determine if the orange was to be sweet or the orange was to be sour. So similarly, the formula of the fruit of life tell us that if we choose to focus on our character or habit or action or thought or mindset, those are great, but it can only be temporary because over time, people tend to fall back to their old character. People tend to fall back to their old habit. They tend to fall back to their old action. They fall back to their old thought. And they fall back to even their old mindset. So in order to change the sour oranges to a sweet oranges, we have to have the right seed. We have to have the right images. Or in another word, we have to exercising our very core value of knowing, saying, seeing, and hearing. We need to focus in on the seed, the core value of ourselves. And this is extremely important. I would like to invite you to grab another piece of paper. This is extremely important because of this concept here. Let's go ahead and draw a line representing the present and the past and the future. So similar to the example of the oranges, how to turn sour orange to the sweet oranges, and it is all about the seed. Wouldn't you agree that the outcome is right for outcome? Wouldn't you agree that the outcome of our past, I mean, the outcome of our past is the result of our present? For every decision that we make in the past lead to where we are in the present. And in other words, the result that we are receiving today is the accumulation of everything that has happened in the past. Our character in the past, the habit that we had in the past, the action that we took in the past, the thought that we had in the past, and the mindset that we had in the past. All of those images that we have had in the past is the direct result of the outcome that we have today. So let's say the result, the outcome that we have is a sour oranges. What we need to do is focusing on the present, right? Focusing on building the seat of the present. And this sweet seed will have a direct influence on the outcome of the future. And this gives us hope because you know what? If you are not happy about your current outcome, just like the sour oranges, if you want your outcome to be sweet, you want to be happy, sweet oranges, you have a choice, right? You have a choice to work on your seat, to work on your core value, to work on your inner self, and exercising the right knowing, the right saying, the right seeing, the right hearing, and you will have the right images. And hopefully, similar to you gave to Jeff Bezos, to Elon Musk, if those are the outcomes, if those are the results that you want in life. So it's not all hope or losses. We have a choice, we have an option. And it is extremely important that we understand the formula of the root cause of life because thanks to this formula, we know what we needed to do. We don't, we are no longer focusing on a temporary solution, right? Because focusing on character, that is only temporary. Focusing on habit, that is only temporary. Focusing on action, it is only temporary. Focusing on thought, that is only temporary. It might show some result, but it is not a permanent solution. This is the permanent, more permanent solution. So how can we have the right images? How can we have the right knowing, saying, see it, and hear it? What do we need to do in the present to cultivate a good seed, to cultivate a good information, so that the moment we invest our time and effort into an orange tree, at the very beginning, we know right away that that orange will be sweet. And of course, that is speaking figuratively to all of the outcomes that you want in life. What can you do right now prior to working on your business, working on your relationship, or your health, or your inner self? You can make that decision right now, today, to materialize the outcomes that you want. And of course, we will continue to go on this journey. There's still two other semantic reference systems that we need to go over, which will give you more information on how to have the right images. But the key here is change your images and you will change your life. Okay. And you can change your images as an overweight person to a perfectly healthy, beautiful looking person. You will change your life. If you have the right images, the success that you are going to have, that will happen. You will change your life. Just like what Jeff Bezos did, just like Bill Gates did, just like Elon Musk did. And you can do the same. So thank you so much for joining today's presentation. And um, the next time that we meet, we will go over the second semantic reference system, namely the human structure, and you will have a greater understanding of this um, formula of the root cause of life, because all three of the semantic reference system they supporting each other, and then it will give you a greater, a deeper understanding. And once again, thanks for joining our presentation today, and we'll see you next time. Bye bye.